Hello, welcome back. This is part 2, and now we're going to go ahead and do the simulation. Notice that I have the wrecking ball completely gone. Bullet is very finicky on where you model and where you pull things away from, so we're going to keep this as simple as possible. So if you've already modeled a sphere with a little hook on it, just I would put it in a layer and just kind of follow along what I'm doing here. Let's get this set up here real quick. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a sphere and go ahead and scale it to the size that you want. Something like that. Go in here and see what that looks like, and I'm going to move it up here. There we go, like that. Let's see if that will work fine with what we're going to do. I want it kind of off center. I don't want to hit it right in the middle. Is that enough? I think that looks good right there. Okay, so I'm going to assign a new material. Like I said, we're going to be doing a AI standard surface. And let's call this wrecking ball. And we're going to call that a texture. And let's bring that all the way up. We're not going to go totally black, just a very dark gray. And we're going to go with 1.1, so it's going to have some shininess but not a lot. And then we're going to go 2.3 on roughness. There we go, so that'll work. Alright, so let's get it back to where it was. Very simply, this is where Bullet is kind of a very finicky and very frustrating. Or can be frustrating, let's put it that way. Alright, so for this to work, the constraints to work, I've got to get all of the history off. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on center pivot, the history, and then freeze transformation. That just kind of cleans everything up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on grid snap, and I'm going to move it back about 30 units. See if that's enough for it to swing. I think that's pretty good to give us some momentum. Okay. And let's go ahead and rotate that. I don't know if it matters if it's rotated. You can't really tell. So I'll just leave it the way it is. And then we're going to create a cube. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of that. And I changed my settings for my cube here. Let's get that reset. Alright, just make that a little bit bigger and move this over the same amount, the same distance away. Okay, that works. We're going to turn that invisible so it won't matter. Alright, so with that done, I'm going to go ahead and they're both set up. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to select those. Let me get rid of the ground plane. I had the ground on a layer, so I keep selecting it. I'm going to select both of these guys here. And center pivot, delete by type history, and freeze transformation. So we're at 0 now. Hopefully that will work just fine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to click on the cube. We're going to go to bullet. We're going to make this a passive rigid body. And this is going to be a cube, or excuse me, yeah, a box. And click apply and close. And then we're going to click on the sphere. We're going to go to bullet. We're going to go to active rigid body, and this will be a sphere. There we go. Apply and close. Perfect. And then I'm going to select the box and the sphere, and we are going to create a constraint. So let's go to, if everything works right, keep my fingers crossed here, rigid body constraint. We want to do a point. Let's go ahead and reset everything and just click on point, and it should be defaulted there. And apply and close. And there it is. So thank goodness it worked. And then that should pivot. Problem I was having before was that I was creating stuff in the scene, moving it over, deleting the history, and then moving it around, deleting the history, and it remembered where it was like 5 or 6 saves before. So if that happens to you and it does some really crazy things, It's not that hard to start from scratch to create a sphere and a box and go through what I just went through. You're going to have to do that because it is very finicky. Will not. Now it's stuck here. It will not. You cannot move the pivot point here. That's the difference. It is very rigid in its dynamic structure. So, and I guess that's the flaw in bullet physics, because it's really considering the amount. How can I create thousands and thousands and thousands, if not millions, of particles or objects, not particles but objects, that interact with each other, like a landslide, something exploding into a million pieces. This can do it, but when you start thinking about constraints and controlling it, it's very difficult. Okay, I think it's a lot more difficult than the classic rigid bodies that I was showing you before. So keep that in mind. So now it's working. That's really good. Now what do we do? Okay, well, we don't really need to see this box. That's kind of an eyesore, so we can turn the visibility off, and that's what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm not worried about renaming all this stuff, right? You can put it in a group, but I would just, for God's sake, just don't do anything that I don't do, just in case something goes wrong. Alright, so now we've got to place this. Okay, so if we have this working now, you kind of understand what I'm talking about, where we've got to now place this down here so the ball will hit it. I know it sounds really weird, but it's just how it is. So I'm going to click on everything that I need. Okay, I'm going to now I have to be super careful now, because that I do not want to select the constraint by accident. So if you just go in here and start randomly just clicking on it, you're going to get that constraint too. So make sure your outliner is open, and then do a control, hold down the control and click on that bullet constraint so you're not moving it down accidentally. Okay, that's going to be a problem. So now I'm going to move it down. Okay, and we're going to move it down to, if we do move it down to 30 units, okay, we're pretty close. Oh, why did that move up? Okay, I know why. Because I've got grid snap on. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and move this down. Something like 32. Now that, and I'm not really too worried. I'm just going to find out where this ball's going to hit. Okay, so right there. So I'm going to move that down a little bit more. So I want it to miss the first couple bricks, what I really want. Let's get down a little bit closer, and we can see what's going to happen here. And if I want it to hit it in the center, I sure can. You know, just move that over. Just kind of want it to hit right. I want to miss these bricks right here. There you go. That should work out pretty good, like that. So I just moved that down, right? Okay. I don't have anything else selected. Let's go ahead and move that back. So now we're all set here. So with that, click off, and I want you to select it again. And this time, I want to delete by type history, right? Center pivot, delete by type history, freeze transformations, and that should clean everything up. So now we've got a scene. You can see that's where it's starting. Of course, that won't render. And if you're worried, you can just get rid of the grid by going to show grid if you don't want to see that anymore. Alright, so now with this guy right here, okay, let's go ahead and get our simulation done before we mess around with that, so we get this connected to something. Alright, so now we've got this, and we can just see this. Now we'll see the wire and all that stuff, but we'll just see this. Okay, so now we've got to take this, okay, and we need to make that a passive rigid body. So go to bullet and go to passive rigid body, click on box, and then click on apply and close. So now when the bricks spill over, they'll crash onto the plane. And now I want to select all the wall pieces. Okay. So go into the front view. And I can hit 4 to see all the way through and just kind of select everything. Do not select anything you're not supposed to, especially that little guy right there. Okay, be careful. So I'm just going to be very careful how I select these. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and control click the ground. I'm not worried about these posts. They're not going to be affected at all. I don't want them to be affected. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of those. And I don't want these bricks. These bricks here, I want these to kind of stay put. Okay, so those bricks will be stay put. These will be dynamic. Okay, so now we'll go into that, make sure nothing else is selected. Okay, and I selected my cylinder by mistake, so just look at everything. Okay, alright, that looks good. Make sure I'm not selecting the ground plane again. So I'll zoom out a little bit, and that's not selected, it's just the bricks. Okay, just be careful what you're selecting. And then go to bullet. We want these active rigid body. Okay, so we want box, so that's good. Applying close on that. This might take a while because there's a lot of bricks here to deal with. Okay, that went pretty quick. Alright. Okay. Alright, so the bricks, what we need to do with the bricks is to select the ones that I had before. Okay, there we go. And deselect these guys here. And I want to change the mass down. I just want to make sure these are deselected. I don't have those on. Open up the attribute spreadsheet. And that is weird. Nothing is showing up here. Okay, well, I'm going to go to the top and go all the way to the bottom. And type in 0.2. See if that'll work. Alright, so hopefully that worked. So let me click on these randomly now. There we go. That seems to work, I guess. Alright. Whatever works, right? Okay. So let's go back in here. Things are acting strange. I might have to restart. Okay, it's acting weird. Alright, so here we go with the simulation to see if this works. I wouldn't be surprised if I have to restart my computer. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so we definitely got something going on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to show and go none, and then show and go just polygons. So now we can see just what it looks like with just polygons. We don't see all that other stuff going on there. Looks like one of my bricks fell out. That's pretty cool. Alright, so let's go back and change the mass of this to 4 and simulate it again. There we go, and that goes all the way through. That's what I want to see. Let me try it again. this should be holding them in. Let's make it wider then. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, to be honest with you, with this. Should be seeing it. Passive. That would be a pain in the butt. Okay. Okay. Okay, play the animation. There we go. Now it's holding them in. Sagging a little bit, but that's weird. Okay. Now it's working. Imagine that. Alright, so I just make that invisible. Okay, so what I'm going to do is create another one, I guess, and bring it down. What a pain in the butt. Pain in the butt. Let's see here, scroll that up. I'm not even deleting my type history. I'm just going to go in here. I didn't do that with the other one, and it seemed to work. I don't know what to say about that. It's just weird. Now it's holding it in. Kind of. Sort of. Kind of sagging a little bit, but that's okay. It works. I just don't want them falling out during the simulation. That was the whole idea. So now I'm going to turn that visibility off so I don't have to see it. And it should still simulate it, supposedly. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so that'll work. Get these back where they were. Sorry about all that. It should have placed them on there. Should have worked the first time. Alright. Let's get those back on there. Okay, so I'll cut that part out. Okay, so now we play the simulation and boom, there we go. That looks pretty good. So last thing we need to do that looks pretty good, I like that, is put the this thing on, this guy right here, the wire. So that's the last thing we're going to do. So I'm going to do -90. Alright, we're almost there. Okay, again, you save it before you do this. So separate. What about parenting? Let's try that. That would be a child of the sphere, right? Child. And then P for parent. Okay, let's try that. So that should follow that. There you go. Now we're cooking. That looks better. Okay. Alright, so the problem with this now is that the chord, this guy right here, is not dynamic. So we're going to have to fake that chord smashing through that. We cannot add a passive rigid body because then it would destroy the connection between these two. Because we've got because we'd have to put a passive rigid body, and you have to animate a passive rigid body. So you can't make that active because that ruins the pendulum. That takes away from. So we've got to problem solve this out. How do we create this? so it sees that chord. So what I suggest that we do, let's go ahead and play the simulations, get to the side view here, and see where this is hitting and when. Alright, so this is what we have to do. So let's go ahead and play the simulation. Stop the simulation when it hits. Okay. Alright, so let's go back again. Let's try it again. Try to get it so it hits and stops. Try to be as good. Okay, so it's right about there. Okay. Okay, so we're at 83. I'm moving around. I tried a passive rigid body, and that didn't work. So I'm thinking an active rigid body is the only way, but we can't animate an active rigid body. I don't even know if we can attach it or parent it, or even constrain it. So that's the only thing I can think of. Or we take a cube and we make it about the same size as this wire, and we impulse push it through. However you want to do that, we'll see what happens. It's going to take some time, so let's go ahead and I'm just going to create a cube, push it down here. I'm going to try, setting it up, getting it about the same size as we need here, that part, and see if we can get it just to follow. I'm not going to intersect anything. Make it about the same size, maybe a little bit bigger. And this will be a collision, so just make that piece a collision. And see if that'll work. See if I can parent it first, and then make it an active rigid body. It might destroy everything, so make sure you save your work before you do this, wherever you're at. Right now we're not connected to anything, so I'm just going to go ahead and save it real quick before I do anything crazy like this. So active rigid body, what is this? So let's connect it to that, I guess. Okay, and see if that'll follow. It is. Okay. Alright, so next thing we do is that's working, so let's go ahead and add it on there. It's about the only thing we can do. Alright, so right before it hits, I'm going to go ahead and make it an active rigid body. And I'm just, if this doesn't work, we can't do anything, we just gotta ignore it. Ignore that, that there's a gap right there. It doesn't really push those blocks. So, it is what it is. So active rigid body, we're trying everything. Box. Okay. Go back. You have to start over again. And let's see if it worked. Let's just click off. And keep it. Nope, didn't work. Just falls off. Just can't hang on. That's a bummer. it just couldn't hang on. Oh, I got an idea. On that active rigid body, okay. How about if we animate the mass to 0? Huh. I'm just grasping at straws here. Set a key at 1. Okay. And then we get to... Oh yeah, it's hanging on. Oh, this might work. And at frame... 70 or 83, so if I get it to stop right on the right time. There we go. And then turn it back on. Set key. There we go. And then go ahead a couple frames and turn it on. It might work. We've got momentum now. Okay, that might work. Okay, let's go back and try it again. I think we might have it. I don't know. We'll see. Alright, so turn it on then after this. So 1, 2, and turn it on to 1, mass of, let's just say mass of 2. And set key. See what happens. Yeah, it disappears. No matter what I do, it's just not having it. It's just so particular. Okay, it is what it is. I don't know where it went. Yeah, it just went back to where it was with the mass. It's confused, doesn't know what to do. Alright, the next thing you could probably do, I'm not going to worry about it, don't worry about it, is that you could probably have that cube invisible, but still be dynamic, and just do an impulse. That would be the next thing I would do. I would try. Okay? Alright. That's not working. So this is kind of a pain in the butt. And it's just, we got a couple variables here too. It's the angle and the rotation part. It just might be, it's just too hard to try to get it just perfect, because right when it's hitting, you would take another cube and you'd do an impulse. That's what I'm talking about, and impulse it through. But to get it just as that wire's going through too would be hard to do. So just don't worry about it. We got a pretty good simulation going on here, and I'm pretty happy with that. And no matter what angle we got here, let's go ahead and do a play blast of it. I'm pretty happy with what we have. It looks really good. Looks realistic. Except for that part falling back. I like it. Looks pretty good. Looks like everything's starting to fall out now. Okay. Alright, cool. Happy with that? I'm good. We're good to go. So let's get it framed up. Okay. And I think save your scene. This one I'm going to call finish, F-I-N. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to do a play blast. So play blast. There we go. Xvid full frame padding 4. Save the file. And my first initial last name, module 14. Let's call that wall break. There we go. I'm going to copy that, browse it. Where do I want to put it? On the desktop, of course. And then save it and play blast it. It shouldn't take too long. Okay, your result will be a little bit different, I'm sure. Okay, and that's what you'll turn in. You'll turn in results. Okay. You know, Unfortunately, with dynamics, you guys all know about this, it can be really frustrating sometimes, and sometimes it's very gratifying. Depends on what end of the stick you're going to be dealt with. So, just hang in there. What I would suggest if things aren't working out for you, that you restart. You can even go to the point of deleting preferences. If you don't know how to do that, you can email me. But deleting preferences and starting over again, creating the brick wall, saving as you go. That's how you protect yourself. And then, not everything's going to be, it's not going to go perfectly, such is life. So, I'm happy with what I've got. You save it out, which I did, and save your scene, which I did, and you'll turn that in. And then, I do want some renders. So if you were doing the AI standard surface, then you just have to go in there and kind of tweak some of this out. The ground needs to be like 0.4. Otherwise, I'm going to have a shiny ground. I don't want that. And the pillars, those are okay. Let's do that at 1. Wrecking ball, I think that's okay. I think everything's okay. The rest of it's okay. Right, so I want a couple renders. One of it just hitting. Okay. Here we go, something like that. We want to kind of get the same. See how far the bricks spill out. Okay, that's good. We have a brick that goes out here a little bit farther. I'm not too worried about him. That looks like it's pretty good. Alright, so let's try it again. Alright, so that's our first render. So we're getting it set up for Arnold, so we need to find Arnold and add a Skydome. And where are you? Okay, yeah, show all, because I won't be able to see my Skydome otherwise. Where's my Skydome? There it is. Okay. Let's turn that all none and then show polygons. There we go. And we need that to be turned down to 0.5. Samples at 2. Everything else is good. Use color temperature 5800. Good. Okay, then we'll create a light, directional light, and that's going to be up at the top. Bring that down and scale that up. I guess. I need to show lights so I can see my lights at least. And just kind of rotate that where it needs to be so we can get some shadows going on. Make it look interesting from the front. Arnold 5800. And exposure at 1. I think that's pretty common, and let's go 2 on that, and then angle, just disperse the light a little bit, the shadows a little bit. So let's go back in here and see what we get for render. And Arnold should be all set up. You want it to be, yeah, that looks pretty good. It's defaulted. And then we want a final render at HD 1080. And this will take some time, so I'll pause it when I render. Okay, so we're all done rendering. That was pretty fast, 25 seconds. And so with this, you guys can choose whether you want the background black. I can't stand white. That drives me crazy. So go down here and just turn the camera down, reset that up. Let's go ahead and render that again. Okay, that's better. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and save it out. So File, Save Image, make sure you go into the option box and make sure you have Color Managed Image on. Select Apply and Close, and now you can save your image as a JPEG, not as an alias pix. Alright, we've done some renders before. I'm just going to click on this, and this will be, we'll call it wall break 01. Save that image, close it, and continue playing the animation or the simulation until the ball goes all the way up. And that should work pretty good there. We'll do a render of that one. Alright, we're done. Go ahead and File, Save Image, and this will be number 2. Alright, so okay, that's it. So you got your scene, you've got your play blast, and you got your images, and those are what you're going to turn in for this scene. And fantastic, you're all finished with module 14. Hope to learn a little bit more about Bullet. I particularly like the classic rigid bodies better. I can control them much better than this, but Bullet is better than rigid bodies when it comes to the amount of objects you have in your scene. Have a great week, and I'll see you guys in module 15. We're almost done.